Oh, there we go. Teasing the crowd there. Went live with a black screen, but we're good now. Welcome, everybody. Moneyline MMA coverage of UFC Abu Dhabi headline by Robert Whittaker versus Reinier de Ritter. Happening, of course, as I stated, in UFC Abu Dhabi. This card will take place during the day for us fans in the U.S., us audience in the U.S. This card will begin at 11 a.m. Central Time with the prelims. And I believe the main card is at 2 p.m. Central Time in the U.S. So just be ready if you're going to plan on watching these fights. These fights will be well over before when they usually start around 7 o'clock on Saturdays. That said, of course, it's headlined by, I would say, title contender. Robert Whittaker's been a title contender, obviously, title challenger. Reinier de Ritter, title contender. This fight definitely has implications to the future of middleweight, especially because middleweight right now is kind of dead. I hate to say that, but it kind of is. Like, Izzy fell off and Pereira left, and yeah, we're kind of like, all right, I guess we're getting 318. Don't get me wrong, I'm super stoked to see Khamzat fight and fight for the belt himself, but like, yeah, man, outside of those two dudes, it feels like the division's kind of dead. So let's see someone make a revival out of this and actually be a tough opponent for Khamzat because I don't suspect he will get one quite yet. But that said, let's quickly discuss the results of UFC 317 before we get too far into things. Or sorry, 318. 319's next. 318, Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. Jose and I disagreed, and Jose ended up getting the win there with his one weight on Max Holloway. That ended up being correct. I only have 3 weight on Poirier, but in that sense, I still lost the pick. Look, Poirier had a moment where I thought he was going to finish Max Holloway, but honestly, same with Holloway, right? Even in the first round, I think it was like 2 minutes in, Holloway looked like he was going to put out Poirier, and it almost felt like, and I even saw someone post on Twitter today, it was like, yeah, Holloway definitely let up on this, like claiming that Holloway could have easily finished Poirier in that flurry in the first 2 minutes, but he kind of let up, and I don't know, like, to be honest, I see both sides. If I'm being real, I could see a world where he'd let up a little bit, but I also see, like, he did try to follow up, and Poirier did a good job getting his legs up and preventing Holloway from being able to just, like, completely, like, boom, into Poirier's face on the mat. So that said, man, crazy good fight. I agree, though, that Max Holloway got the job done in the end. But other than that, my 5 weight at least was successful. Vinicius Oliveira getting the job done. Can't ask for much more. At first, he looked a little slow, man. That round 1 was, whew, that made me nervous. That made me nervous. But he came out in round 2 and round 3 and clearly won the fight. So that said, props to him, 29-28 at the very least for Vinicius Oliveira. Dan Ige, wow. Oh, man, tough night for 50K. Tough night for a few dudes, man. That's Jose's 4 weight. Pitbull getting the job done. But unfortunately, Jose's 5 weight. Daniel Zellhuber, man. The main point of last Saturday's fights was dogs, man. Holy dogs. I believe Max Holloway was the only favorite to win of the 5 main card fights. That's a night of dogs, my friend. And that's why we got to, keep our eyes out and keep a head on a swivel because any one of these underdogs is live, is ready to go, man. Paulo Costa looked really good. So, yeah, that said, Kevin Holland was one of the guys we both agreed on, and he also didn't get the job done, man. Stupid, man. D-Rod looked good, so I guess you got to give him credit. But either way, Jose staying above 500. I'm below 500, but I got a 5 weight hit. The 5 weight is what I'm looking to continue my streak with going into this Saturday. For anyone that's new, we do a 5 weight pick system here in which we pick 5 fights. There are currently 12 scheduled for UFC Abu Dhabi. And we weigh them in order of confidence, with 5 weight being the most confident, 1 weight being the least confident. We make these picks independently, and then right before clicking record and go live, Jose and I just let each other know who our picks and weights are so we know what order to go in. That is because we always go from locks of the week forward. So without further ado, my lock of the week for UFC Abu Dhabi this Saturday, literally during the day, barely even the afternoon. My 5 weight is taking us to the main event. I'm not gonna take a prelim 5 weight this week. I'm gonna go with a tried and true veteran, a guy that I believe you can rely on for a solid performance, win or loss. And this is the co-main event of Saturday afternoon, the bantamweight bout between Petr Yan and Marcus McGee. It's honestly been oddly difficult finding lines on some of the fights for this card. But from what I see in this fight, Petr Yan is a somewhat heavy favorite against Marcus McGee at minus 400. 4-1 odds. Marcus McGee a plus 300 dog. So Petr Yan starting this fight as a pretty considerable favorite, and I think it's well deserved. Petr Yan, you can look back. His only losses that he's ever seen: champion Aljamain Sterling, champion Sean O'Malley, and champion Murad Valishvili. Of course, Sean O'Malley's no longer a champ, and neither is Aljo. But the point being that Petr Yan is only losing to top end absolute dogs, and even his loss to Aljamain, split decision. His other loss to Aljamain was DQ. Aljamain got, he grew a female part in between his legs and quit. So look, in my opinion, Petr Yan's an absolute dog. Petr Yan's in his prime, in my opinion. He's 32 years old. Petr Yan is not. I think Marcus McGee, the quote-unquote prospect with 11 pro MMA fights, is like 3 years older than Petr Yan here. I love Petr Yan's experience. He's one of the best. He's been one of the best in this division. He's fought multiple 5-round fights in his career already, and this isn't even a 5-round fight. I just don't see a world where Petr Yan isn't better than Marcus McGee in every category, specifically boxing. And Marcus McGee, he looks great, right? 8 KO wins, 10 wins overall, and his only loss is getting submitted. And I agree that it's very somewhat unlikely that Petr Yan gets a submission here. I'd have to double check. Petr Yan only has 1 submission on his career. So, no. I'm not saying Petr Yan's going to submit Marcus McGee, but I still think he can out-wrestle Marcus McGee for sure. And with that, get back up on his feet if he wants and continue boxing. So, to me, this is easy. This is very confident. And he is somewhat of a heavy favorite, but I'm taking Petr Yan confidently. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick. So for this one, I agree with you on Petr Yan. I'm not as confident though. I do have him as my 2-weight. Reason it being is just McGee, just he is up there in age, just not that much older, but his last fight, just beating Jonathan Martinez unanimous, is partially why I'm not as confident, just because he really shocked me. I believe for that fight I did have Jonathan Martinez in terms of before the fight actually happened. That's who I picked on the show. And he's just not been in the UFC as long, and he's just kind of bumped up. So at the time I didn't really know much about him, but he could be one of those guys where he can be kind of like Reinier his first 3 fights and in the UFC, but he also was a champion and won championship. And again, if he's ranked number 13, and I don't know what the circumstances really were for him to be matched up so quick with Petr Yan. Probably was that him beating Jonathan Martinez, but not in the UFC as much. Really hasn't had tough dudes. Like this biggest fight was the Jonathan Martinez fight, and now he's fighting a Petr Yan. It's hard not to go with Petr Yan. Petr Yan, former champ and overall phenomenal Muay Thai striker. McGee, what he has is just strong, heavy hands, and so that's just the thing. That's pretty much the scariest thing I think that he has is just his power. But that being said, Petr Yan, he's just a phenomenal Muay Thai striker. He's not afraid to get hit himself, and I think he's going to be the overall better grappler. And like you mentioned, even though he's only got 1 submission win, that's I think just more than enough. In terms of he's just that good of a striker that he's never really showed much more of his striking, but he has shown his takedowns. And McGee as well. McGee, his only loss is via submission. So I don't know what method Petr Yan will win this. I could see a submission, but I think most likely this would be a unanimous win for Petr Yan. Possibly stoppage. And if it is stoppage, I think it's actually more likely going to be via strikes. And McGee is the slightly bigger guy, but he's just going to look overall thicker as well on fight night. But he's not that much bigger, to be honest, than Petr Yan. Not that much. He's 5'8", Petr Yan 5'7", and McGee only has a 2-inch reach advantage, which is going to be nothing for Petr Yan. Petr Yan's dealt with taller, lengthier dudes, and the experience, like you mentioned as well. Petr Yan is not that much younger, but he does have quite a bit of experience over McGee. So, and again, former champ, and everyone that Petr Yan has actually fought in the UFC already. I mean, this guy has fought and beaten Jose Aldo, Uriah Faber, John Dudson, Corey Sandhagen, Yadong Song, Davison Figueiredo, you name it. He's beaten a lot of names, and the people he's lost to. Honestly, the weakest name he's lost to is Sean O'Malley, and Sean O'Malley is a superstar. So that being said, I got Petr Yan. Maybe I could have bumped him up a spot or two, but yeah, he's my 2-weight on this one.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we definitely agree, and yeah, man, you make some great points. Like personally, I looking at this for the first time, I'll be honest, man. When I saw Piotr Jan versus Marcus McGee, I assumed Piotr Jan had a different opponent and Marcus McGee stepped in last minute. And I'm really not trying to disrespect him, but he's like ranked 12 or something. Like I don't even believe he's in the UFC's top 10. Like I, it's wild to me that that was proposed to Piotr Jan. Like, and that Piotr Jan didn't even find that as disrespectful, almost. Like, and again, I'm not trying to rag Marcus McGee, but like the difference between experience there is so crazy. And I don't know. I just feel like this is one of the easiest home runs I've seen. You know, Piotr Jan should be minus 800. He should be double what he is.
Yeah, actually, I agree. Like, I definitely agree on that. Like, the odds should be, um, McGee should definitely be a bigger underdog. But that being said, not even then. Like, I last week I went for mostly the dogs, but this is a week where I would have this one. I cannot bet. I cannot bet against Peter Yan in this matchup.
Like, it'd be one thing if Marcus McGee was like big or like huge. Like it was like, oh yeah, he's got a 6 inch reach advantage and height advantage, and he's all his power, you know. But like that's not even the case. I think they have the same reach, and like Marcus McGee is like maybe 1 inch taller. That's it. Like that's not enough to matter
Yeah,
at all in the fight.
I think he's just going to be slightly thicker, but that's it. Not much. Just maybe look muscular. But Peter Yan, it's fighting. Peter Yan's going to have, I think, just overall more fluid striking.
Dude, yeah, his technique's crazy. So cool. We agree that might be the lock of the week, but we'll find out after we hear Jose's 5 way.
Yeah, so for my five weight, this already comes down. Uh, this one comes down to the middleweight bout between Shara Magomedov and Marc Andre Barriault. Right now, Shara is a big betting favorite at minus 670, while Marc Andre Barriault is a betting underdog at plus 430. Um, this one, I'm gonna easily go for Shara. Obviously, he's my five weight. He's coming off a loss to Michael Venom Page, and that being said, like it was just a clash. It was just two strikers, and Shara's 31, and Michael Venom Page is a little up there, 38. And Michael Venom Page has been doing it like longer than Shara, so MVP just has so much experience. Like way before, even though it wasn't a lot of it's not in the UFC, he was still just getting a lot of experience and just building up his skills with Bellator. So like it was a good matchup, and for that one, I was actually surprised MVP won it, but MVP just really, I think, just kind of slowed Shara a bit because Shara really couldn't read MVP as well. Because again, MVP's blitz style, karate style that he has, I just think Shara was not used to it. Shara was probably more used to being the one to dictate the match with his striking, and he had to be a little more read and react with MVP. And with Marc Andre Barriault, I don't think he's gonna. I think this is gonna be a good fight where he's gonna be able to pretty much dictate the match himself and just piece up Marc Andre Barriault and even finish Marc Andre Barriault. That's the way I think this one's gonna go. I think Shara will has the ability to finish him, and Shara he in this one too. Like he's slightly taller, but he also has a 1 inch disadvantage on reach. But that being said, both these guys throw a high volume of punches. Both do eat some good shots. I don't think any of these guys are really gonna go for a takedown. I think it's just gonna be on the feet, and if it's and as long as it's on the feet, even if it gets to the ground, but definitely on the feet, I think Shara is just gonna ultimately dominate. Just throughout the whole match, either unanimous. So again, like I say, I think he's either gonna win truly unanimous or by knockout because Chara is also beating people, even though he's not in the UFC anymore. But Armin Petrosian, and that was a good fight too. And he just went crazy with the KO spinning back fist, and even Armin did stun and hurt Chara a couple times. And then the Michael Olajaychuk fight as well. Like these guys, really good strikers, and Chara was just able to, just finish them off. And then, and then Marc Andre Barriault, he's out of his last four. He just won one against Bruno Silva, and that's Bruno Silva. I could be wrong. Yeah, he's not. I don't even think he's in the UFC anymore. Yeah, like he beat a guy that just got cut by the UFC, and he was also like on a terrible losing streak himself. One of them being Sharap Magomedov as well, and that being said, like, yeah, I just think Shara's overall just going to be the better fighter in this one. Probably just a good matchup they did based off this fight being in Abu Dhabi. Um, but that being said, yeah, I got Shara as my 5 weight. What are your thoughts on this one, Nick?
I agree. I have Shara. It will actually, let me see, that'll still not provide us lock of the week though, because Shara is my one weight. Shara is my one weight because, in my opinion, at the very least, the line between this fight and the first fight we discussed, Petr and Marcus McGee, should be switched. In my opinion, Petr should be the minus 670 favorite, and Shara should be the minus 400 favorite. I think it's slightly disrespectful to Marc-Andre Barrial to make him that big of an underdog. I don't believe he's going to win this fight. I'm picking Shara. But to say he is that big of an underdog, like, I get it. Bruno Silva, he most recently beat. That's not like a pedigree performance where it's like, look at me. I beat Bruno Silva. I'm one of the best. I get it. But he finished him in the first round. Like, that was some, like, Marc Andre is on a 3 fight losing streak, and he's coming out and doing something aggressive. And he landed a first round finish. And yes, Shara beat him too, but it was a 15-minute, much less exciting fight from the perspective of a fan just watching. Marc Andre Barrial got performance of the night against Bruno Silva. So, and that was like 2 months ago. So I don't know. For those reasons, I'm giving a little respect to Marc Andre Barrial, is all I'm saying, by making Shara my one weight, because you said it yourself. Yes, Shara knocked out and finished Armen Petrosian with that cool double spinning back fist. I remember watching it live actually while I was in the gym. It was cool. It was great. But I remember feeling that Armen Petrosian was almost controlling that fight if it wasn't to get finished. Like Petrosian could have gotten himself a split decision win or something. Like, it wouldn't have been unanimous, I don't think. But that was also only round 2, so we can't say for sure. Either way, I just didn't see enough out of Shara to be like, yeah, this guy is it. This guy's about to go knock everybody out. Like, obviously, then he goes and loses to Michael Page. It was a great fight, and Michael Page is a stud. I have a lot of respect. So I'm not knocking Shara for that. But again, I feel like it's the whole mystique of Shara just going in and knocking everybody out. Like, let's chill out a little bit on that, right? Because he's not. In the UFC, he will not go in every fight and knock them out. So if he can't knock them out, can he get a decision win? And we saw that against Olajaychuk. Okay, cool. We saw that against Bruno Silva. So he's done it a couple of times. But all right, now let's kick it up a notch a little bit. Marc-Andre Barrial. He might not be dazzling with crazy moves or anything, but losing to Joe Pyfer is not a big deal. Losing to Chris Curtis, split decision. That's fine. Chris Curtis is a dog too. So yeah. Either way, I'm picking Chara one weight for the reasons that the line to me is way too steep. And I see I need to see Shara improve a little bit before I think he's anywhere near like a top 5 or top 6 guy in this division.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm still riding strong with Shara, but yeah, I definitely don't agree with him being the a strong minus 670, which is insane. Definitely a favorite, but not that big of a favorite, I would say. Can't count Marc Andre Barriel out. He's got out of his 17 wins. He's only gone to decision 5 times. So both these guys are finishers. So I do like the idea of this fight, like, not making it the distance, but
Yeah,
yeah, regardless,
that's a good
like,
point.
yeah, I just know, like, yeah, I'd be more likely to see. I would be more. I think it's going to be more likely to see Shara just do something like the Armin fight, where if he is getting stunned by Marc Andre Barriel, he's just going to kind of throw caution to the wind and just start throwing something crazy. Versus Marc Andre Barriel just trying to walk him down and knock him out. So
Yeah.
I I like this is actually a fun matchup, and again, it's fun just because I truly think there's going to be a finish one way or the other.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Under 2.5 or whatever. See what the line is. But that said, we will agree anyways, and I'll move on then. That's both of our locks of the week finished, and we are moving forward with current lock of the week combined. Petr Yan with a close second being Shara. Going into my 4 weight though, we're not going to dilly dally around the main event any further because I have a 4 weight pick on the main event. This middleweight main event, I'm taking who I believe to be a mirror of himself in younger and better form. Yeah, that means I'm taking Reinier de Ridder, and I believe that Reinier de Ridder is very similar to Robert Whittaker, and just a slightly better version, if I might be able to say so myself. I think Rainier de Ridder and Robert Whittaker are very similar, like almost stylistically, but Rainier de Ridder is just better overall. That doesn't really match up as well on the paper because Rainier de Ridder's got like 14 submissions and Whittaker only has 5. So these guys definitely finish fights in different ways. But I don't necessarily think Whittaker's a slouch on the ground, and I don't think Rainier de Ridder can just jump on Whittaker's back to get the finish. I understand he got finished by Kamzat rather easily in the first round, but that's Kamzat. Like, come on, let's chill. Kamzat is Kamzat. Whittaker loses to Duplessis, okay, the standing champion. Whittaker loses to Izzy, the at the time champion. So, look, I think Whittaker still has it. This isn't necessarily a knock against Whittaker, but I just believe, after seeing what Reinier was able to do against Kevin Holland and then Bo Nickel, like he's finishing these guys. If it would be one thing if he was riding out just kind of lame decisions, I'd probably feel a little differently about it. But the Ritter's going in there and he's finishing these guys. Kevin Holland is not an easy guy to submit. Kevin Holland, I'd be willing to wager, has more submissions than times he's been submitted. And he's a lanky dude. He's hard to finish. And all of a sudden, Reinier chokes him out in the first round. And Reinier takes care of Bo Nickel in the second round. I mean, that wasn't even a close fight. So, that said, I'm taking Reinier de Ridder with a rather confident 4-weight. And before I pass off to Jose, this is actually an underdog pick for my 4-weight on the main event, as from what I'm seeing, Robert Whittaker is the minus 150 favorite. Let me double check if that's been updated at all. He's actually higher now. Robert Whittaker is up to minus 166 at least on FanDuel. Rainier de Ridder is a plus 130 dog, so I'm taking plus money. I think, yes, Rainier has less UFC experience, but overall, Rainier de Ridder's been there and done that. Obviously being one of the top, I believe a champ in ONE FC. If not a champ, he was high in their rankings. So, that's saying I'm taking de Ridder. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, this one I'm going with Robert Whittaker, but he is a very low confident one. Like it's very low confident, one of my least confident ones, just because every fight that Reinier de Ridder has fought thus far in the UFC, I think I've actually picked him and he's got it. I can't remember the Jared Mearshart one, but I may have actually picked him for that one as well. And definitely the Bo Nickel and Kevin Holland ones, just because, yeah, former double, I'm pretty sure he was a former double champ at one, and he's just a big dude as well, and he's just been doing nothing but impressing me in the UFC thus far, living up to expectations. And most of the time, I think he's been the underdog, so he does well as an underdog. But this one, like you're making a leap now to one of the best to ever do it in this division, which is Robert Whittaker. And Robert Whittaker, like obviously we know what happened to him when he fought Kamzat. His jaw broke, but that's already, he's had some time to heal, and it could have been like a pre-existing injury because it just the way it broke to, like, a lot of people are like, oh, Kamzat's such a beast how he did that to Robert Whittaker so fast, but I feel like Robert Whittaker may have walked into that fight already with with a pre-existing injury or something, and that like it just made it easier, kind of like when Connor broke his leg against Dustin. Like I feel like there may have been something minor going on, but that being said, regardless, I think Robert Whittaker still is a phenomenal striker and just overall a well-rounded fighter. Reinier de Ridder, the only thing that does, like, again, like kind of like about Reinier de Ridder that like that makes it hard for me to like want to just go fully with Robert Whittaker is not only the experience Reinier de Ridder has before the UFC, similar to how I talked about like MVP before he entered the UFC. He has a lot of good experience before the UFC, but he's also just overall a big dude. He's 6'4". Robert Whittaker is 6 exactly, and then he also has a 4.5 reach advantage over Robert Whittaker. And we know Reinier de Ridder, he's mostly a submission guy, but he's got good striking. He's been doing it long enough, and fighting the dudes he's fought over our one championship, a lot of them are majority strikers, so it's nothing new to him. But he's going from fighting these dudes from one championship and who he's fought entering the UFC, like Gerald Mearshart and Kevin Holland, to now Robert Whittaker, and it's just going to be a whole new level. Like this, I think will be a true welcome to the UFC and welcome to the top 5 of this middleweight division for Reinier de Ridder. So, and if he beats Reinier de Ridder, honestly, I mean, if Reinier de Ridder beats Robert Whittaker, Reinier de Ridder's already up there, I would say, for title contention or title contender right there, like a really quick path for the title. So, but I think Robert Whittaker is just one of those dudes, like that is always gonna just linger in the top five, win or lose. And just unfortunately, he's kind of becoming more of like a, I don't want to say gatekeeper quite yet, but if he doesn't win the title again, he's just going to be like a top five, top four gatekeeper almost. And I think this is just overall a match where Robert Whittaker should take the win. He's just really, again, well rounded. He should be able to defend the submission attempts from Randy Ritter, and I think he's just going to come in aggressive and just go toe to toe on the feet with Randy Ritter and try to break Randy Ritter down the way Randy Ritter broke down Bo Nickel on the feet. That's what I think Robert Whittaker will do, because Robert Whittaker too, like one of his fights with Israel Adesanya, I believe it was this. Even though he lost unanimously, yeah, he still did a good job going toe to toe with Izzy, and Izzy's a tall, lengthy dude. And the only thing is he just doesn't offer the same submission threat that Randy Ritter offers. And Randy Ritter also doesn't force takedowns as much. He's going to be looking more for like the openings to take him down. And Robert Whittaker has just got phenomenal takedown defense as well. So besides, unless he's Kamzat, but Randy Ritter is not going to shoot the way Kamzat does. So this one, it's a very low confidence on Robert Whittaker, but again, just because Reinier Ritter as an underdog has just been showing up every time, and Robert Whittaker, he's looked nothing but good besides like losing the Comsat the way he did, and then before that the current champ Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya, the other one of the best to ever do it in this division. So this one, very low confidence Robert Whittaker, and if I put money on it, honestly, I may actually, like, if I do put money on this, I may actually go for Randy Ritter just because I do like him a lot as the underdog that he is, especially how much of an underdog he is as a plus 130. So yeah, that being said, I got Robert Whittaker, but very low confidence in this one.
Sounds good, man. So we will agree then. Disagree, sorry. That's a disagreement, even though I got lost in the fact that you said you might bet on RDR, but you disagree on the pick anyways. That's a 4-weight for me on RDR and a 1-weight for Jose on Whittaker. And we'll move forward then. Jose's 4-weight is next.
So for my 4-weight, this is the matchup between Nikita Krylov and Bogdan Guskov. And right now, Nikita Krylov is the betting favorite at minus 200, while Guskov is the betting underdog at plus 154. This one, I'm really going with a heavy on the experience. So I got Nikita Krylov as my 4-weight, just because he's been in the UFC for a while now, and he's literally fought the who's who since he's entered. I mean, his first UFC fight was against Jan Blachowicz, former champ. Then he fights Ovince St. Preux, beats him, who obviously he was a former title contender against John Jones last minute. Then he fights Glover Teixeira, then Johnny Walker, Magomed Ankalaev, Paul Craig, Gustafsson, Vogt. Like everyone on this list, like has besides Ryan Spann, has either and Paul Craig has been a contender or former champ. So he's just really been kind of thrown to the wolves like his entire UFC career, and he's just been win loss, win loss, win loss. And he was on a nice 3-fight winning streak up until Dominic Reyes just kind of re-entered the light heavyweight division and just woke up and got a win over him. But that being said, too, like that happened in the first round as well. It could have been a completely different fight if that fight made it in the second round, because even though Dominic Reyes is on his own winning streak right now, it's one of those things where like he is an early finisher type of fighter, so I wonder how that fight would have looked like later on. But in that case, that's why a big reason why I'm going with Nikita Krylov, and I'm actually not even surprised that he's that much of a favorite by minus 200, just because again, his experience versus Guskov is just night and day. Guskov's only has 4 UFC fights, and his first fight he got submitted by Volkan Ozdemir, and Ozdemir at one point was a contender, and he lost to DC, and since then, like that fire has really just kind of disappeared, and he's just a win loss type of fighter, not even really a gatekeeper, just a guy that hangs out in the top 10. And then Ryan Spann has the potential to actually do something, but he thus far has just been kind of coming up short a lot. And then just Zach Pauga and Billy Elikana, like come on, okay, nice wins, but like yeah, his resume compared to like Nikita Krylov's is like not even comparable, and not only that, but also just the experience. Like Krolov is only 1 year older than him, but he's already got 40 fights under his belt. He's got 40 fights under his belt, while Guskov's got 20. So Krolov has already doubled the amount of fights, and uh, ch- uh, all those UFC fights are like good quality fighters. Like this is, if like I think on paper this is like the least toughest opponent he has, and like obviously it's the fight game and anything can happen, but on paper right now, Guskov is like the least, in my opinion, like the least threat that Nikita Krolov has fought in a while in the UFC. So that being said, and then when it comes to just size wise and everything, like they're both 6'3", and Krolov only has a 1.5 inch reach advantage, not much. And overall, I think it's going to be a good striking match. And I think if anything, Krolov would be the one also to engage more in a takedown and wrestling attempts. And he is a phenomenal submission artist. Like not only out of his 30 wins, I mean 12 of them KO/TKOs, and then he's got 16 submissions. Out of his 30 wins, he's only gone to decision twice. So I do like Nikita Koloff getting the finish on this one. Um, and Guskov as well. 14. He's never actually even gone to decision, but he has been finished in multiple ways before, and like with Nikita Krylov as well. So this is actually another fight, kind of like the sheriff fight, like my 5-weight. This is a good fight where I would say I don't think I doubt it's gonna make the distance by the end of the third round. So I got Nikita Krylov getting a finish on this one. Not sure the exact method. I just think he's going to be better in both the kickboxing and grappling department. So that being said, yeah, I feel really good about Nikita Krylov. He is my 4-weight. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Nick?
I don't have an official pick. I would lean. Dude, I can't even honestly, dude. I'm struggling. I had to leave it off my board. I'm struggling. I like Krylov. I agree with you on his experience, but I don't think Uskov is to get scoffed at. I understand that he has a lot less experience and who he's beat is nowhere near the echelon of Krylov, but I also don't think Krylov is like, I don't know, like he's maybe top 10, but it's like okay. Krylov losing to Dominic Reyes, like I'm not knocking Dominic Reyes, but it's kind of also knocking Dominic Reyes, like so either way, I couldn't make a pick on this one because I just couldn't come to a consensus.
Sure, yeah, fair enough. That being said, yeah, this is my 4-weight. I feel really strong about Nikita Krylov.
So it sounds like we have to stick with the lock of the week then of Piotr Jan because that's going to be seven, and then Char will be 6. Those will be our 2 locks of the week because we're down to a couple picks left here, and I'll bring us into my 3-weight, and 3-weight is only the last weight Jose has left as well. 3-weight is going to be taking us to the main event of the preliminaries. That is Bryce Mitchell versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. I was kind of surprised to see Bryce Mitchell on the prelims, but it is the main event of the prelims, which is almost a nod, in my opinion, because Dana White has said in the past that they always want to put a fight that they find to be very exciting and like captivating on the main event of the prelims, so people go and buy or get a membership or whatever to continue watching the main event fights. So that's almost a nod of respect in a way to Bryce Mitchell and Saeed, in that they'll get an entertaining enough fight out there for fans to want to see more, essentially. But I'm going with Saeed. Officially is my 3-weight. I'm picking against Bryce. To be honest, it's tough though. Both these guys are coming off losses, so it's definitely tough. But Bryce Mitchell's been honestly struggling a lot lately. He's lost against Gene Silva. Okay, he is a submission artist, but a KO artist. But Gene Silva submitted Bryce Mitchell, and Bryce Mitchell. Okay, he finished Chrome Gracie, but like, come on, Chrome Gracie is one of the worst strikers to ever grace, haha, pun intended, the UFC. It's crazy. Josh Emmett just absolutely torched Bryce Mitchell. Okay, Bryce Mitchell beats Dan Ige or whatever, but honestly, this past weekend makes Dan Ige look worse. So I don't know, is Dan Ige even that good? And then of course losing to Topuria, yeah, okay, that's fair. But either way, I just don't see it in Bryce Mitchell, man. I see it in Saeed. I think Saeed and Bryce are basically even wrestlers. I don't know. Saeed isn't nowhere, like, he carries the Nurmagomedov name, but I'm not acting like he's, Khabib or anything like that. So Saeed will utilize his boxing, and then Saeed won't just go for blind takedowns. In fact, he only averages 1 takedown per 15 minutes. So, hey, One takedown per fight is not very much for a guy with the name Nurmagomedov, and if it goes to the ground, though, I'm still confident that he can win some exchanges there. And with that said, on the feet, I'm confident as well. Saeed statistically outputs more power and damage than Bryce Mitchell, so I like his chances on the feet. For those reasons, three weight on Saeed. What do you think, Jose?
Yeah, Nick, I agree with you on this one. I have a pick on this fight as well, and I actually have Said Nurmagomedov as my three weight as well, actually. And yeah, as you mentioned, like I think he's overall just gonna be the better fighter in this one because mostly in the striking department. Because Said Nurmagomedov, he's struggled with other good strikers like Vinicius Oliveira, Jonathan Martinez, like those type of dudes. Like, but really, really good strikers, and those are the only ones he's struggled against. And then now he's going against Bryce Mitchell, and Bryce Mitchell's a better grappler for sure. So I think this is a good fight where Said Nurmagomedov is going to be able to shine a little more and get a little more creative on the feet and dominate himself on the feet. Because yeah, like Bryce Mitchell is definitely not the same type of striker as Vinicius Oliveira and Jonathan Martinez, and so I think Saeed just only struggles mostly with other really good strikers, and it's probably because he probably is surrounded with more grapplers as well himself. So, and that being said, Bryce Mitchell, like him being a grappler himself, I think Said Nurmagomedov is going to feel really comfortable engaging and closing the distance on him and just piecing him up and not being afraid of like Bryce Mitchell's submission attempts. And that being said, yeah, I think Said Nurmagomedov is going to pretty much piece up Bryce Mitchell for either unanimous decision or even finish Bryce Mitchell himself. Because Bryce Mitchell, yeah, like his losses, like he has been getting finished. He's yeah, like all his losses are pretty much thus far. Yeah, he's only been finished. So um, that being said, I like Said Nurmagomedov. He's my three way, and I think his striking is pretty much going to be what's going to win him this fight.
Yeah, that's a great call and a good point on the matchmaking differences there between what Saeed has been losing to and what Bryce Mitchell brings to the table. So, does sound stylistically advantageous for Saeed in this fight, and we agree on him getting the job done. Last thing to mention is that this fight is pretty even, is what I'm seeing. Bryce Mitchell's about a minus 115. Saeed is about minus 105. So Bryce Mitchell a very slight favorite that could change. We're technically taking a dog, but in all reality, it's almost 50-50 here for either guy. So yeah, that'll complete Jose's card. I only have one pick left by process of elimination. That leaves us with my two weight remaining. So for my last pick, I believe we've discussed everything but one remaining fight on the main card. That's Asu Amabaya versus Jose Ochoa. This is a flyweight bout. Asu Amabayev, absolute like prodigy coming into the UFC. Looked like an absolute stud. But then he loses to Manel Kape most recently in March of this year. And Jose Ochoa has never been finished and has only lost by decision, in which his actual UFC debut against, I don't even know how to say that name, is it was his decision loss, and then he came back and beat Cody Durden with a finish on the feet and got a performance of the night bonus. So Jose Ochoa is coming off of a great win, no doubt about it. I don't see personally how this fight ends up on the main card, if you ask me. But either way, I'm a big fan of Asu Amabayev getting the job done. If it wasn't already obvious that Amabayev is my two weight. That's the last pick I have left. So with Amabayev, you're getting a consistent fighter, a guy who grinds it out. He loves wrestling, and he does not mind decision wins whatsoever. He had 3 straight decision wins in 2024 against Nicolas Jose Johnson and CJ Vergara. So there is it's like one of those spots where you almost felt like Asu was ready to take a step up and fight some higher level competition, and that was basically what it was with Manel Kape. Manel Kape finishes him and hasn't fought since. I think Manel Kape, though, is on the up and up. He's honestly a potential title challenger at this division somewhat soon. So I don't think that's too bad of a loss to take. I think Asu needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit for sure. But who are we to say that Jose Ochoa is some sort of dog? Like, if Asu was fighting a higher level opponent in this division, like, even a guy towards the bottom end of the top 10 like Amir Albazi or maybe even Steve Erceg or Tatsuro Taira or something, like, okay, I would definitely be going against Asu. But in this case, he's fighting another like prospect level guy who's only 1-1 in the UFC so far. And both of those guys are like, we don't even know if they're any good really. Like Cody Durden is still pretty young. Okay, he's in his mid low 30s, so Cody Durden's much more of a veteran, but he's not that good. Like he's only won one fight in his last five, so I don't know. I'm not that confident here in Ochoa. I like what Asu brings. I've seen him do it now 4 times in the UFC. He's 4-1, so I think this is a one of those fight matchups where they're actually trying to push Asu a little bit and challenge Ochoa a little more. So I'm leaning with what I think is the better spot in Asu here. Before I ask what Jose thinks, the odds for this is very, very much more even than I would have expected. Asu is actually the underdog technically with the line open at minus 105. Jose Ochoa is a minus 115 favorite. So, like I said, it's nothing major. There's a reason Asu's only my 2 weight. But the fact that he is a dog technically in this fight really surprises me because Manel Kopp is a very respectable loss, and Lone Kavanaugh or whatever this guy's name is, I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but I haven't seen him beat anyone good. So it's really hard for me to just sit here and say Ochoa is going to be able to do that against Almobayev too. So what do you think, Jose?
Yeah, so I would say like I don't have a weight on this fight, but I like also a lot just because of his experience, and I can see like the Jose like why they would give him I need a refresher. Was this like a replacement fight and also was supposed to fight someone else because
Yes, he was supposed to fight Ramazan Temirov, and Temirov
yeah.
withdrew.
Okay, yeah, so that's yeah, that's another just a reason alone why I'm gonna just side with Asu because Jose Ochoa, even though he's being Cody Durden and Cody Durden has a lot of experience, like this is a good push for Jose Ochoa too. Because if Jose Ochoa wins, he's a new contender that I think it will be definitely entering the UFC because how young he is. He's only 24, not that much experience. This is only gonna be his 3rd fight in the UFC. So that being said, just have not seen enough of Jose Ochoa, and he's also just a replacement fighter. So that's enough for me to just go with Asu. And just I've seen Asu fight too beforehand. It's yeah, like but just best way to say like I like what I've seen out of him. He's gotten the wins, and I've just seen him more active in the UFC. So that being said, I like Asu, but I have no weight on it.
I would even go so far as to say Asu overrounds Asu by decision. I would predict that Asu would use wrestling somewhat heavily in this matchup. Ochoa got taken down twice by Cody Durden before Cody Durden got finished. Cody Durden he likes to wrestle too, and he's a pretty solid wrestler in terms of like takedown accuracy and whatnot. So a good offensive wrestler, but um, I think Asu is more advantageous with those positions and gets round wins with his wrestling. But that'll complete it. Our lock of the week, just a quick recap, is Piotr Jan. Our second lock of the week, with just one less combined weight, is Shara. Sounds like our underdog of the week is, well, technically, we disagreed on Ritter, so it's not that. Ritter's mine because he's an underdog, but you said Whittaker, even though you might bet on D. Ritter. As far as another underdog, it'd probably be Almabaya for me, or also Saeed's technically a dog, so we both agreed on Saeed. That's a good underdog. 6 combined weight for an underdog, although that's very close. I don't even think you get plus money on Saeed. Either way, that's our quick recap here at Moneyline MMA. As always, we'll be returned next Monday. The UFC's got a few cards upcoming in a row for us going into UFC 319. So a week from today, we'll be here to discuss, an Apex event between Roman Dolidze and Fluffy Hernandez. And then after that, the very week after that, we're finally seeing Duplessis put his belt up against Chimaev. Comes out finally getting his belt shot. So that's exciting. Very exciting stuff coming up from the UFC. So until then, thanks for listening and have a great week.